Hospopreneurs. Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Hospopreneurs podcast. Today, John Highton takes us through his hospitality journey, touches on the re-emergence of customer-centric service, and discusses branding and social media marketing of bar and hospitality professionals. Please bear with the ambient sound in this episode. I've done what I can to reduce it. And another big thank you to Marty and the team at Savile Row for graciously allowing us to record there. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 8 with John Highton. Hey guys, I've got John Highton in today, known by his friends as Jonty. Welcome, John.
How are you doing today, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure.
I'd like to start the show with now asking, particularly bartenders, asking crazy bar stories. So have you got any crazy bar stories in the bank?
Crazy bar stories. Yes and no. Most of the bar stories I've probably got in the vault in the back of my mind involves bartenders who will remain nameless.
Anonymous bartenders.
Exactly.
That's okay.
In situations which bear not be repeated. I guess that comes part and parcel with the beauty of the industry is we're a very tight-knit group. Our socialising hours are slightly skewed from the general public.
Yep.
So I would like to elaborate on some of the stories I have, but most of them aren't online service.
Of course. What about something you've seen over the bar while you're at work?
Something I've seen over the bar. Look, it's really interesting watching the evolution of patrons throughout a night. I mean, the most interesting part for me would be seeing some guests come in full of vigour and excitement for the anticipation of a big night and the inevitable degeneration over time. More often than not, they're quite placid and enjoyable and they're here to have a good time. Occasionally people go too far. That comes with the industry though. But look, I guess a memorable story would probably involve... I don't want to name names here.
Don't have to name names, that's okay.
Just a little gambling adventure we had at a recent venue. We were playing some poker amongst friends. The foosball table was at the table and everyone was out of money for antes and blinds, so we started betting games of foosball. Now, if you lost said game of foosball, you lost the hand, and because we had no cash on us at the time, the penalty was to strip down to our underwear outside the bar and have sliced watermelon thrown at us, and then we'll hose down following that.
This is while you're at work?
This was after work.
Okay.
Completely fun. I mean, we have a bit of a poker tournament every now and then, and this one happened to, I guess, involve a young bartender called Alex Boone.
Yeah.
Note to self, never play foosball in the same team as that man while intoxicated. You'll most definitely lose. So we found ourselves, up against a brick wall, covering our underwear with our hands and having watermelon pelted at us because we lost.
Right.
All in good fun, but it was definitely a very memorable experience. There is a video floating around somewhere, but that will be confined to the annals of hospitality history, I think.
That's okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that one.
My pleasure.
What's your background? You know how? Well, let's start with that one. What's your background?
Well, hospitality-wise or overall?
How did you get into the hospitality scene?
It began about 11, perhaps 12 years ago now. I had a very good friend working at the Met when it first opened. I was studying at the time and could use a bit of cash on weekends. So I started glassy work. If anyone knows the Met, it's a 3,000 plus venue that pumps 3 to 5 days a week. So I started as a glassy, clearing the floors and pulling a hell of a lot of glass to try and keep the place clean, and that was where I stayed for about 3 years, progressed from a glassy to a bar back, to a bartender, to a bar supervisor. I learned a lot along the way about high volume service, how to efficiently run and keep a venue tidy, considering the numbers of people you can imagine are going through.
Of course.
And that was where I cut my teeth on pouring drinks, and I guess where I first learned the art of speed service and multi-service, which is an essential part of any bartender vocabulary. Following that, I moved on to Cloudland. That was probably my first exposure to real cocktails and a slightly more high-end style of service. Excuse me. I worked there with some great bartenders, including Martin Lang, Simon Wade, Yoshinishi, just some really, really high-profile guys who taught me a lot more about drinks and service. From there, I went to...
How was that adjustment between the two?
Look, it was great.
Learning cocktails after you've been in this, high-volume service-based,
Yeah, look, it was something you need to have a passion for. I think with the people that you surround yourself with, you'll automatically pick up these sorts of skills and techniques. And going from a high-volume environment to a high-volume cocktail environment was a simple enough transition, considering you've already developed those speed of service skills. You just got to adapt to mixing drinks to specs, and that came pretty naturally. It was pretty fun, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, so after Cloudland, where did you go?
Yeah, after Cloudland, I moved over to South Bank. Started working for the Van Handel Group when we opened Smokehouse Q. I was the bar manager there for just over 2 years. So that was my first exposure to restaurant-style bar service. Thankfully, it was also a very high-end style restaurant, so I learned a lot about how to wait a section, how to properly serve water, wine, drinks, spirits. And yeah, it was just another feather in the notch of another style of service, I think, that a lot of bartenders don't have a lot of exposure to. So I learned a lot about wine and champagne and fine dining service there, which was completely invaluable, and I think is a very essential skill for all bartenders to learn. Following that, moved over to Bacchus just after it opened, another fine dining restaurant at Ridges Hotel. Moved in there as just a bartender at the time. Excuse me. I was there for another 3 years. Moved from bartender to venue manager, and during that tenure, they renovated the pool area outside, and it was turned into a Soleil pool bar. Very similar to Cloudland in terms of service and clientele, high volume cocktails, lots of people, and that's really where I hit my strides in a managerial role and learned more about the back of house and costings and rosterings and how a big venue truly functions. Ridges is a world-class company, and the structure and back of house that I learned there has been completely invaluable for my future in the industry. Another part of launching Soleil was a very successful Sunday search, which introduced me to large-scale function use and managing entertainment companies, rostering of staff, entertainment, large bulk ordering and batching of cocktails, which is another thing which I found invaluable. Finished my tenure up there just 1.5 years ago, and moved over to Cobbler Bar with Marty and the boys, which is the next step again. I mean, I feel like I've done a lot in terms of volume service and customer service and fine dining. This is my first exposure to a real high-end small cocktail bar. Definitely my passion lies as well. Was there for just over a year, throughout which we were upgrading systems, and I was getting used to the way they present their drinks and their style of service. And since then, we've moved forward and opened Savile Road in Fortitude Valley,
which is where we are now.
Which is where we're sitting right now. Currently venue managing there.
Thank you to Marty for having us.
No, absolute pleasure, brother. This is it's been a little baby that's been in development. To be honest, it feels like over 9 months, but we've been up and running for just over a month now. Everything's going very well.
So, in your journey there, you mentioned obviously there's a lot of changes that take place. Hospitality is one of these industries that you can do that.
Exactly.
You can be changing things. One month you can be working somewhere, the next month somewhere else, and that's a lot of the time that's okay to be if it's within the same company or even the same people.
It's always been a very fluid and creative industry, and I think that's one aspect that draws a lot of very talented people to it, is they have the freedom to be creative every single day. The only thing that I've found in my tenures is, I mean, if you're not learning something where you are, that you tend to get bored or stagnant, or you lose your excitement and your vibrance to the industry. And that might be a reason why people jump around so often, is because they're not content with the direction they're going or what they're learning or who they're working with. And it is a very fluid industry, but I think with the right training and direction, you give people enough focus and enough freedom to be who they want to be, then you're going to have a very successful company. And I think that's a real focus on our service, is giving our staff the freedom to be creative and the support to get that learning and that teaching and to develop those skills so they don't get bored, they don't move on. And the rule number one is, if you're working for me and you get a better offer with an opportunity to learn better skills, I'll write you a glowing recommendation. Because the bottom line is, I want you to build your own future. I want you to be comfortable and happy where you're working. If I can facilitate that, either working with you or recommending you, I'm happy either way.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. In that process, obviously, with all this, your experience that's just grown over this time.
Yeah.
Did you have any mentors to teach you how to do these things, or to learn or grow? Did you read any books, or what's the?
Look, it's all good to read books. I mean, I highly recommend reading some of the great publications. Anything by David Wondrich, anything on basic spirit information. Read a lot of cookbooks, do a lot of research on flavor pairing, and that's all things you can do in your own time. What generally lacks in a situation like this is a strong mentor, someone that will push you and give you direction. In each venue, I've been lucky enough to find people that have given me the support and the guidance that I need. At the Met, I had people like Ian McKee, Pez Collier, Ian Griffiths, who's now a White Lion, as a legend. Cloudland, like I said, Simon Wade, Rajberry, if you're listening. Stokehouse, I had Ben McNair, who was an amazing sommelier. I had Peter McMahon, who was the GM from Stokehouse Melbourne, who came up, learned a lot from him. Once I was at Ridges, Arno, who was the Bacchus restaurant manager, taught me a lot about back of house. Handed off to Stephen James, who was a food and bev director, who gave me a lot of very positive direction as well. And overseeing all that was Callum Kennedy, the general manager of the hotel. Everyone through my entire tenure has given me bits and pieces of information to help me get better at my job, and that's what you want to look for as someone looking for a mentor, is they're happy to teach and educate at the same time. So, and without mention, obviously, Cameron Perrette, Marty Lang, Elliot Pascoe, Edward Quartermass, all the boys, Bernie, everything. Yeah, you want to try and learn and gather information from everybody. Your peers are your strongest port of call in terms of information, but also your heaviest critics. So they'll support, they'll improve, and at the end of it, you become a better bartender.
And what about so your peers, of course, people that you can learn from sideways, but what about up? Like, what about someone that you really look towards to be like, I want to be like that person?
Look, I would like to throw Martin Lang's name in the room. I mean, he is a very difficult man to work for, but he knows his stuff. When it comes to launching venues, setting ambience, writing lists, dealing with customers, he's amazing.
Yeah, awesome.
I've learned a lot from him. But like I said, it's a day-to-day thing. You learn from everyone you interact with. So.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
cool. Because I was interested in who your mentors would be now as well. So that's awesome to hear. I've got a note here that I wasn't sure how to say this because it could sound weird, but I think only really bartenders are going to get this.
Okay.
When I watch you move in the bar, you move so smoothly.
Yeah.
It's just, I've not said this to you before, so
okay.
It's like a dance.
Look, I say that all the time. It really is. I mean, when you're working in such a confined space, at such a fast pace, you need to have eyes in the back of your head. Obviously, it comes with working within a space for a period of time with the same people, but you've just got to be aware it can be a very dangerous environment to work in, with knives, blow torches, everything. Fucking potato peelers.
Yeah.
There's been many an injury recently.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you are fluid and comfortable behind the bar, then everybody else will find a similar flow.
It's like all the seasoned bartenders have grace in their movement. That was the best word I can think. I can think
I'll
of.
take that.
It's a grace, but you've got this class about you in the way you move. So how did you? I don't know. That I aspire to have that. So how do bartenders develop this? Is it through practice or rather and more time ultimately behind the stick, or is it do people naturally have this rhythm about them?
Look, I think like everything, it's a skill that you can develop over time. I mean, if you're working in a group with good people with great skill levels, you'll learn by doing. It's almost an osmosis effect, and then once you get a nice click with a crew, everyone accelerates and grows at the same rate. It's a beautiful thing to watch. In terms of have I done anything specific? Not really. I aim to be neat, clean and tidy with my service and try to keep that flow moving through the bar. So as a guest watching it, doesn't look disorganized. Kind of like the duck on the pond analogy. Yeah. I mean, on the surface, it might look super cool and smooth, but underneath there's 10 things going on and 6 different heads behind that bar, and they need to be working in the same direction. So when it works, it works.
Cool. The first time I realized that, like, the first time I appreciated bar movement
Yeah.
was actually when I saw Marco Nunez he was a greaser at the time.
Yep.
And he actually served water to the patrons. And I sound super weird, except to a bartender, because they're the only people who are going to get this. But, like, when I saw him put the straw in the glass, it was like, just the way he did it was like conducting a symphony. It was just like,
It is. I mean, because we are doing these movements, like, it's a game of repetition. Essentially, if you have your bar set perfectly, you could close your eyes and make a drink just by feel. And once you get that comfortable with every movement you're doing, it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't know he's doing it anymore.
Yeah.
And he's another man who's been around for a very long time, who I consider an exceptional bartender.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what comes with practice and focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
I brought it up because it's something that I appreciate when I go into a bar. And you will have seen a crazy amount of things working in different venues. So, starkly different venues. So what I wanted to ask you is, what do you really appreciate when you go to a bar?
I guess I appreciate the same thing that we strive for in life is being comfortable and happy. I mean, when I go into a bar, I want to have the bartender greet me, I want to sit down, I want to have a brief conversation, and if I feel like I'm in a comfort zone, then I'm going to stay. So the bottom line is, what I want from a bar is what I try to give to a bar. Mm-hmm. Make your guests feel welcome and at home, like they're walking into your lounge room. They will quickly learn that they will get great service, and the converse to that is that they will respect your venue as well, because they respect you as a bartender or a cocktail maker.
Mm. Is that different for, because I asked about a bar experience, is that different for a hospitality experience? Like if you go to a restaurant or...
It's all the same. I think ambience in hospitality is the biggest thing. You might have the best product on the planet, but if you can't engage with the customer and present that product in such a way that they'll come back, then what's the point? Mm. There are a million amazing cocktails out there, and if you present it just the right way, with just the right amount of emotion and contact with the guest, they'll come back, and that's what you want. That's how you make your money on big customer base. Mm. So service is a huge part of top-end hospitality, definitely.
Mm. I wanted to ask you a bit more about Savile Row as well.
Of course.
Can you tell us a bit about the new joint and sort of what you guys are doing here?
I guess this concept's been floating for almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. Marty spoke to me first about it, it would have been about 18 months ago. And the concept was very similar. I wanted to take the style of service that Cobbler is known for. Mm-hmm. Whiskey and cocktail being their focus, ours more on spirits in general and good cocktails as well. The major point of difference we're trying to convey is it's a service standard that we're trying to maintain. We want people to walk into a small bar and feel like they're at home, and that's something we've tried to recreate over here. It was a lot longer in build than we expected, but it's been received very well in the last month since we've been open. Like I said, the focus really is the drinks and the cocktails and the spirits are one part of it, but the bigger part we're focusing on is lifting the level of service and the style of service and bringing something new to Fortitude Valley. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of great cocktail bars locally, a lot of great clubs, and we've all spent our time in the mega clubs. We've all been dancing around until 5 a.m. and that's something that, trust me, I enjoy. But what we wanted to do is bring a style of service to the valley that hadn't been seen for a very long time, and trying to bring a culture of drinking to a place that innately lacks a culture of drinking is a very difficult task. So far it's been well received. The clientele is very varied. We don't close the door on anyone. And that's what I mean. We try to educate at the same time as entertaining. So I guess the point of difference that we'll convey is that walking into a lounge room, being comfortable, getting a drink, learning about your drink, and consuming it in a way that I guess best illustrates what that drink is trying to convey.
So how can we create that experience for a customer? How do you guys go about doing that?
I guess there's two parts that I'd break that down into. Is one, it's the face-to-face with the customer, and the second, if not more important, would be the ambience and the setup of the venue. We were known for the low light, candle light, very subtle A little bit speakeasy, you might say, but we don't want to kind of label ourselves as a speakeasy or a whiskey bar. It's more a place with comfort in mind and service focused. I guess that's what we're trying to achieve, and so far it's been pretty positive. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's about that ambience, creating that
It
atmosphere.
is the lighting levels, the music, the style of drinks, the general crowd activity. One thing I've noticed is humans we're a pack species. It's very interesting walking into a bar and seeing a group of people in the corner getting a bit rowdy, a bit loud. It quickly kind of infiltrates everybody, and if the people are having a great time, then everyone will have a great time. If someone's being a bit rowdy and a bit obnoxious, that can easily cascade into other patrons. So by controlling the customer experience, we really control the ambience in the venue as well. So by tailoring our service and our drinks and our floor service to promote guests to sit and converse and experience the surroundings, it really diminishes the risk of any codes or intox, which is a really positive outcome, I think.
That's really good. Obviously, like less incidents is awesome.
Yeah,
are awesome.
and that's as simple as setting the lights correctly and setting the music to the right genre.
People don't get too high.
Exactly. It's promoting conversation and good drinking.
So that there about the customer experience,
Yeah.
customer centricity, this idea of this superior level of hospitality. So obviously, it affects the bottom line because if people don't enjoy coming in, then they're not going to come in.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what does that actually mean in the end to you, like that customer centricity? Because a lot of, there are other venues that don't care about it, and they still can make a lot of coin. So
yeah, of course.
What is it about that that's ultimately important to you?
Look, I think the main focus for us is trying to affect a change in Australia's drinking habits.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It's very easy to go out and go to a bar, grab a beer, go and sit down and chat with your mates. I'm not saying that people doing that are not having a great time, but the focus we have here on being such a small venue is we have an opportunity to individually affect guests as they come in and impress on them the style of drinking that promotes, I guess, a positive outcome at the end of a night and a safe drinking kind of policy.
Yeah. And
like I said, the first line is the bartender standing across the bar being polite and informed and educational. And if people, like I said, feel comfortable, then they're automatically in this really happy space where they can begin to enjoy themselves and interact with people they don't know or guests they might have met once or twice in a positive manner. So that alone reflects on the bottom line because you're promoting regular customer base, which is what's going to turn the cash over Monday to Friday. The weekends, let's be honest, you're going to be busy regardless. The real point of difference we look for is the quiet days and our level of return customer base. It means they're happy. They might not come and spend $800, but they'll come in once or twice a week, have a beer, we'll ask how their week's going. Maybe they'll give us advice and we'll get some from them. It's just a very give and take relationship. And like I said, when you're open 7 days from 5 p.m. until 3 a.m., you get all sorts of people through all times a day.
Interesting that you mentioned sort of a customer exchange.
Yeah.
Is that something that's important as well? Having an exchange with regular customers?
Absolutely. I mean, you can come in. I have regulars that come in and they'll sit quietly and have a beer and a whiskey and then politely say goodbye and head off. Others will come and sit at the bar and they'll have a conversation about how their week's going and they'll ask how our day and our week is coming along. And it builds a very strong friendship. I mean, they obviously are coming into a bar to just leave the world behind, leave any judgment or worry, and they'll happily talk about how their life's going, about how their kids are or how work is going. And we can listen, and then sometimes people just want to have that moment just to let that information out off their chest. I'm not saying it's malignant, but it's always positive because as someone walking into a bar, you want to be able to just leave your problems behind, relax, and escape. And if you want to spend your time telling me how your week was, I'll sit and listen. It's all interesting. I mean, you meet some very cool people in hospitality.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was going to say, and the role of a bartender is wide and varied.
It is, man.
You wear so many hats.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the bottom line, I have to reiterate is we're here to make the guest feel comfortable. And if that involves a conversation once or twice a week just to check on how they're doing and they check on you, it's a nice exchange. It's positive, yeah.
So that's that customer centricity or customer centric model. Is that the difference between a volume game and a quality game?
No, well that's the thing. Like I know I'm banging on about the customer focus of our venue, but anyone working in hospitality has the potential to do this. You can develop your own customer base, your own regular base.
Yep.
It's a simple shake of a hand and remembering someone's order. Like it's not just confined to small bars when we have quite a bit of time to do this, but it's essential whether you're working at the casino, whether you're working in like a restaurant or working in a cocktail bar. It doesn't matter if you're in a high or low volume. It all matters how much you want to commit to this industry and how much you want to try and make a difference. And things like
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember working in a high volume place, remembering people's orders, and they appreciate it.
Exactly,
Everyone wants to feel valued and appreciated.
Yeah.
I think, and it doesn't matter what sort of venue they're walking into,
Exactly.
or who they are. Everyone likes to feel valued and appreciated.
Yeah. Whether, like you said, whether you're a guest who's working 9 to 5 in an office or a chippy working from 6 till 3.
That's
when
right.
you walk into a bar, you want to escape and you want to enjoy yourself, and that's what we're here to facilitate.
You mentioned earlier that it's something that's been lost. This focus on the customer experience. Is it something that's been lost, or is it something that is this taking this to a new level of hospitality?
Look, I don't think it's a new level per se. I think hospitality has a very broad range of experiences. Like I said, you can go into a banging club and you can order your drinks and hang out with your friends, and the bartender in that instance is there to facilitate your safety and to get the drinks out to you. But conversation isn't a priority there. I mean, it's not possible when you've got music going on. But that level of hospitality is, like I said, it's a spectrum. You can start by just remembering an order in a very busy, very loud environment, all the way up to remembering what someone drank last week and recommending a whiskey the next time or following week. Like it's all about awareness of your customers, I think, more so than being venue specific.
I really like that. Obviously, as a customer and bartender, that I don't think anyone would dislike that model for
of course.
being thought of first. So that was really cool. Thank you for sharing those thoughts on.
Pleasure.
That's just my name for it. This customer centric. I like to say customer centric. I think I even said in the last episode too.
That's what hospitality is. That's being hospitable. That's what we're here to do. So.
The next thing I wanted to ask you about was, or explore more, is your social media presence.
Of course.
Because you use social media a lot more than a lot of other bartenders that I know from the industry. Do you feel it's an effective marketing tool at actually converting, actually translating into customers?
Look, definitely. I mean, as a bartender, if you want to make a career out of this, you need to have a little bit of reach. You want to have knowledge, experience, and you want to be reliable. There's been a shift recently with a lot more people deciding to focus their career on working in hospitality, and I think it's just one part of how you can develop your profile and your develop your reach and your base, so that when it does come to promoting yourself as a bartender and promoting your career, you do have a very solid platform to start on. And that doesn't mean promoting your venue 5 times a day or promoting spirits 6 times a week. It's more about, I guess, partly promoting who you are as a bartender, what you do on your days off, how you like to spend your time, but wrapping that into, I guess, your love of the industry and how that ties into your venue and your suppliers. So there's got to be a balance of, I guess, drink promotion but healthy lifestyle promotion. So people don't just look at bartenders as guys who get drunk 5 nights a week and then go out and get drunk the other 2 nights a week. There's a lot of guys that have a beautiful balance. There are guys that cycle, there are guys that do triathlon. Carlos, who I work with here, has got a marathon in a couple of months. It's not just all about partying and drinking, it's about building a healthy lifestyle and promoting yourself internally within the industry to promote your future. I mean, if you decide to focus on being a bartender or a manager in this industry, you need to be realistic about it. You've got to work hard. You've got to build a brand.
Yes, it's building a brand as a
Exactly.
professional. And so you said that it does convert. How do you know that?
Definitely. Well, I mean, I've been given access to the Instagram accounts of most of the venues I've worked at, and obviously seeing the reach and the promotion you get through that, it's a tangible amount of money per week through likes and viewings that you get into your business. From a bartender's point of view, I mean, it's something you constantly have to work on. It's not meant to be like grandiose and magnanimous. It's just meant to be informative and very subtle.
How see, this is the question I have,
Yeah.
and I read a lot on marketing. I do a lot of marketing myself. So, what if a venue promotes or you promote content, and people like it? Sure, they engage with it, but it doesn't actually convert to foot traffic. They don't come in the door.
Look, it's a very hard thing to measure. The way I see it is any promotion is good promotion in this instance.
Yeah.
If people are liking or seeing a photo, whether or not they come in that week, it doesn't matter. But eventually, you'll pique enough interest in the person and have enough friends that have been in there and are tagged in and have good word of mouth responses. That's when you get the return guests.
Mm.
So it might not be an immediate turnaround in cash, but you play the long game. You build up this trust in the guest, and after a period of time, they finally go, well, everyone's been talking about it. I've seen this all over my feed. I'm going to have to go in. And that's where the ambience and the service captures them. So it's kind of like casting a net. You're not going to get them all the time, but you just got to keep casting, and eventually people will come to the realization that this is what they like, and they'll come in by their own free will.
So it's ultimately, again, building that brand, building
Exactly.
brand development, so that even, it's wide-reaching enough that it's a shotgun approach.
Yeah.
That some people are going to see it and come in. The more people that
Exactly.
see it, the more likely someone's going to come
That's
in.
what I mean. You're casting a very wide net there, and like I said, it doesn't have to be focused on your venue. I mean, whenever you go to other venues or events, and you want to do cross promotion where you can, because we're all in the same industry. We're all working towards the same goal.
Mhm.
So you might go to the Bowery or Press Club and give them ups, give them promo, because we're all furthering hospitality as a career. And we're working together beautifully. If we can keep doing that, the sky's the limit.
And taking this on a little more, taking it more practically.
Yeah.
What are the best tools or resources that you know that do bring people in the door? Right? So, I know that there are businesses, obviously, that you can literally hire people to be there.
Yeah.
But is there a particular event or process, system, or product or something that always generates traffic that you've seen?
I guess there's two schools of thought in terms of that. I mean, it's one hand you've got things like industry events which promote your product within the environment. That gets a lot of positive feedback. You've executed well. Like I said, bartenders, we work a lot of hours. Generally, we've got a bit of spare time before, during, or after work. And like everybody else, you want to have a beer and relax. Hospitality events are a great way to showcase your venue to the industry. Things like whiskey masterclasses, cocktail challenges, world-class promotions, stuff like that. And that's good, once again, because hospos are your bread and butter, they're your bloodline. You're all working the same hours, you have so much in common that people need a place to be able to relax. They want to have those events where they can catch up with their friends they haven't seen all week, have that download, have a few drinks, and then move on. On the other hand, you've got consumer events, things like whiskey tasting, cocktail masterclasses. Those probably have some of the best reach that I've seen, mainly because you've got a lead time of 1 to 2 months, and that involves a lot of online posting and Instagram and Facebook promotion. That gives you content, but it also gives you a great spin. So as that leads up to consumer events, generally you're looking at about 50 people in a venue our size, and that's 50 people that will be tagging in or responding or showing that they're in the venue. And from those 50 people, they've got 1,000 friends each, and it cascades from there. So there's two schools of thought. Hospital events focus on industry, which get you a positive reputation within the industry, and you've got the consumer events, which build your brand and give you more reach. So there's two parts.
And they both act very differently with regards to the events as well.
They do.
Consumers are, I find, far more willing to spruik something than a bartender to non-bartenders.
Oh, of course. I mean, if that's human nature. If you have a ticket to an event or you are going away on a holiday, what do? You post about it. You talk about it. It's a natural thing to do. You want to show everyone how much of a good time you're having.
But, well, see, true. the point that I'm thinking about is, who would be, it's rare to find, people at a world class event Snapchatting things.
Yeah.
Because it's an industry event. We're all like, yeah, it's cool. Like we all do this all the time.
It's true. I mean, I've seen quite a change in industry events in the last few years. We just discussed the social media aspect, and a lot of bartenders now are cottoning on to the concept of building their brand. And these sorts of events are a great platform for that, because it gives them a chance to get on stage, show their skills, promote their wares, and by recording that via Snapchat or uploading videos, it's free marketing for them. So it encourages hospitality staff to get involved and push themselves to achieve new goals. And then on the other hand, the consumer events are more focused on education and ensuring that the people that are coming in are learning something and they're very comfortable and happy. And in terms of that, that's when they'll post and repost and then share their happy experiences with all their friends.
You mentioned some resources before, some of these resources that have been helpful for you in your development.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you what your most valuable resources are or have been in learning about hospitality.
Yeah. I guess there's two schools of thought here. Is the mentor obviously is your main focus. But the reality is there is no university degree. There's not really a TAFE course where you can go to learn all the things that are required to run a venue and be successful in the industry. You can learn to be a chef. That's full-on training, salaried, etc. But if you want to be a professional bartender or a manager, there's not a lot of avenues to do that. So, I mean, a lot of it's self-taught, a lot of it is on the job. And in addition to a good mentor, you want to have certain resources that I guess are focused on your style of service. For instance, here at Savile Row and Cobbler, there's a big focus on spirit training and cocktails. Spirit training it's interesting. We try to have master classes with ambassadors whenever possible, whenever they're in town. That's one great avenue. Never turned down an opportunity to sit down with.
We had a chat with Jamie in a previous episode.
Yeah.
So episode 5.
Yeah.
So just to explain brand ambassadors. I mean, if you want to hear more about brand ambassadors, it's on episode 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean is that we're in an industry where, like I said, there's not a lot of print media or information readily available for this sort of stuff. And when you sit down and have a masterclass with someone who has actually made this spirit or has promoted the spirit, that's the best way to learn about it. When it comes to things like cocktails and flavor pairing, I've learned a lot more Googling than anything else. I mean, you can read cookbooks. I learned a lot about cooking with red and white wine, which was invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because...
Imbibe. Is that right?
Yeah, Imbibe is
I wrote that down when I asked you
resource.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So Imbibe is great if you want to learn about all your classic drinks and a bit of history. David Wondrich is the author of a book entitled that, plus another few, namely Punch. Really good breakdown of classic style drinks and their history and their origins. If you're looking to get into cocktails, the Savoy cocktail book is also really good. That's the basis for a hell of a lot of classic drinks. And the way the modern cocktail movement is going is we're incorporating a lot of chef techniques. So learning about cooking, about sous videing, about spirification, anything you're curious about. You jump online and there's enough resources there for you to begin to understand how it all comes together. If you have a good friend who's a chef, they are an invaluable resource. They've been working with flavor pairings and concepts that we're just scratching the surface with for the last 20 years. So it's really about how hungry you are to learn and how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole.
Right. So a lot of what we've been talking about now is very much industry-specific technical knowledge. What sort of resources have you used, or even in reference, or read, or people who've taught you how to manage a team?
Yeah, well, I guess the biggest teacher I had in that aspect was Arnaud Hebrard, who was my venue manager when I was working at Bacchus. And I went from working at Stokehouse with a team of 6 to managing Soleil with a team of 35. And I think it's partly temperament, partly on the job training. I mean, if you're shown one way to do something very early in your career, it's very hard to change that. And I've had very good teachers, very patient teachers. When it comes to managerial skill and background, it's like anything. There's no training regime for it. You want to surround yourself with good, positive people who know what the hell they're talking about, and just try and recreate that in your own style. Obviously, there are good and bad ways to manage people, and each individual staff member has their own needs and requirements. So you've got to be very adaptable in that case. But it's something that comes with time. You can't walk into a venue and expect to understand and know all your staff and how to best manage them without working with them first. So,
how do you know what style's best for you? How do you develop your style? Is it just trial and error?
yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's human nature. I mean, the more you interact with people, the more you understand how they think and what they need to do their job. And I think it really is. It just comes with practice and experience. The more people you work with, the more styles and personalities you encounter, and the more ways you learn how to deal with them. So it's a little underestimated. Obviously, in the industry, there's a lot of amazing cocktail bartenders at the moment. The scene is just jumping forward leaps and bounds. And I guess something that I've focused on a lot of other bartenders around town are beginning to is the managerial aspect. Is how do you manage this great product to a point where the business is going to make you a lot of money? And I think crossing that boundary of being able to make amazing cocktails and then coupling it with this ability to do the back of house and be a good manager is the next, I guess, the next step and where Brisbane hospitality is going to go.
Awesome. So I've got one final question to wrap it up today. What is your end game? What is it that you're working towards?
Wow. Well, I guess every bartender's dream is to own a venue. I know we've touched on a few things like building a brand and managerial styles, cocktails, and what it takes to build a good venue. But I think, ideally, sure, I would love to own my own venue in the future. Like I mentioned earlier, is you work in a role in hospitality until you feel you've got to a point where you've learned everything you possibly can. I would recommend that to everybody. Stay where you are until you've learned everything inside and out and back to front. And once you feel like you've done as much as you can, that's when you move on to your next phase or your next step. So currently I've opened this venue with Martin Lang, and this is the 4th venue I've opened, and I've learned quite a bit start to finish, but I'm still learning. So ideally I'd like to learn the skills I'm going to develop over the next short while in conjunction with what I've learned so far. And when I'm at a point where I feel like I can successfully run this venue start to finish, inclusive of social media, right down to cost of goods, that's when I'll start some serious consideration of location and things like that. But that's it. You don't want to go into this industry without fully understanding every aspect, because you'll fail. You've got to be well informed and motivated, and yeah, that's the direction I'm heading in.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Well, look, thank you very much for being on the show today, Jonty.
My pleasure.
Cheers. Mate. Great to have a chat with you.
Thanks, Steve.
And yeah, it was a fantastic chat. If you enjoyed the episode today, please subscribe on iTunes or the Libsyn website. I'll pop the links up, of course, and I'll put any references that we have in the show. Got some cool stuff coming out soon, as I mentioned on the last episode, and looking forward to having a chat with you soon. Cheers.